it's all about hormone imbalances that cause inflammation. And inflammation is a guaranteed source of pain. Now, we make inflammation a bad guy, and I don't want to do that because it's really important. Without inflammation, we wouldn't survive. But we need to keep it in balance, and keeping the hormones balanced keeps the inflammation balanced. And there are studies.
Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Michelson, and today we're joined by Bradley Shepard. Bradley is a doctor of chiropractic with over 15 years of experience, and he's also a certified functional medicine practitioner. His main focus is on identifying hormone and nutritional imbalances that cause, amplify, or perpetuate pain. He uses whole food nutrition to help others get their life back naturally. In today's conversation, we're talking about this connection between nutrition, hormones, and pain. And Bradley gives us his top foods to incorporate to help balance hormones and reduce pain, and they are probably not what you might expect. Bradley, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Julie. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
I am as well. And I know audiences are going to get so much value out of wherever this conversation leads, because I never really know ahead of time.
I hope so.
But just, I know our topic alone is really important for listeners to understand and to hear. So I look forward to it. I was cheating. I was asking you a little bit ahead of time, but I would love for you to share a little bit with listeners about, whether it's what took you to drive you to become a doctor of chiropractic, or especially because this is my personal favorite part is, okay, and then how to functional medicine. So how does a gentleman become this expert on nutrition and hormones? And because I'm always fascinated about that.
A gentleman, wow. Thank you.
I might be assuming. I don't know.
No, it's a great it's a journey, like you said. And believe it or not, I was set out to be a math teacher.
I love that.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed teaching, and that's why I love these podcasts. Because I feel like I can enjoy that passion without all of the legal,
right,
hoops and bureaucracy and everything like that. And that's what turned me off to teaching. Is I can't teach the way I wanted to teach. But I've always liked to help people, and so okay, what can I do to help people? The medical profession's great, except I don't like the idea of, okay, you've got this symptom, take this pill.
Right.
That didn't make a lot of sense to me. I know I can help in the short term and long term, but what about identifying, why you're having these problems in the first place? Right?
Yes. It's every child's favorite question is the most important question in medicine, right? Why?
Yeah.
That doesn't typically get asked in that standard Western model. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I found. And so when I discovered chiropractic, that's kind of what they talked about is get to the underlying root of the problem, get to the cause of the problem. And that really resonated with me. So after I decided, okay, this math teacher, not going to do it. Chiropractic, this sounds great. I had been to a chiropractor once for low back pain when I was 23, and one treatment and I was better. I was good to go. And now, obviously, I know now that that's not really typical, but
right.
But it worked for me. It was great. And so I knew it had helped me, but I didn't realize at the time that they were actually doctors. And so I thought, well, okay, let's do this. Let's be a doctor and get to the underlying root of the problem, which was great. Now, once I got into chiropractic school and started learning the stuff, we took a lot of nutrition, which was always kind of interesting to me. But with chiropractic, and I don't want to, diss on my chiropractic colleagues or the schools or anything like that, but they taught that the spine and the nervous system is the root cause of all of the problems. And to be honest with you, for a long time, I bought into it. I thought that all of the world's problems could be fixed with a great chiropractic adjustment. And if everyone got chiropractic, there would be world peace.
If only.
But as I learned, it wasn't helping everybody like I thought it should, like I was taught that it should. And so I learned that, you know what? Chiropractic is great for a lot of things, but there's more to it. And when I discovered functional medicine, I thought, okay, this sounds more like what I was looking for the whole time.
Right.
Because we're looking at the spine and the nervous system, but we're looking at the blood, we're looking at the hormones, we're looking at lifestyle, we're looking at mental, emotional aspects, we're looking at toxicity, we're looking at gut health, and all of this stuff. I'm like, yes.
The whole person. Yay.
Exactly. So it's not, and people aren't just a spine.
Right. This, a box. I mean, the lens is, we always have the favorite saying, and I have fractured my spine. I'm very grateful for orthopedic surgeons, but whenever somebody's having an issue that they think they may need an orthopedic surgeon for, a non-emergency, non-broken bone, it's like, let's do some other things first, because, if your only tool is a hammer, everything's a nail, right? Like, yes. So I love that, I knew we were going to have a great conversation. I love the idea of it's not this narrow focus. Here's my body part. I focus on the spine, right? Like when I was sick, I don't even know, I should count that, how many specialists I had, right, for each system or body part that was having a problem. When if I had just had somebody years ago say, why? Let's go after that. I wouldn't have needed all those compartmentalized treatments. So yay, yes. Kudos to you.
And, I'll be honest with you, it's not for everybody. Not everybody needs it. But for those of us that do, it's a lifesaver. And I can't tell you how many patients have said, you've saved my life. Not in some dramatic way, but just.
But yes, I mean, when for those of anybody listening who either is chronically ill right now or has been or is afraid they're on that path, I mean, that's what you do. You see what's ahead of you, right? I didn't think I would live to see 50 because that was the trajectory I was on until I changed course. So it is really life-changing, whatever that means to the person whose life is changing. It's huge for so many of us. It means I get to enjoy my family, right? Life can get bigger again, or at the very least, stop getting smaller. And that is life-changing. That's how we create world peace, right? When then we can make a contribution and be part of community and heal societally. So I love yes, you're very modest, but there's a ripple effect with every impact. So
agreed.
I don't think your patients are exaggerating.
Thank you.
I don't.
No. It's not one of those, life and death situations, emergency situations.
Correct.
But it is, but I have seen the changes.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And that's really why I like doing what I do too, is to see those changes and try to make the world a little bit better.
I love it. So I would love to, and always feel free to redirect me because I know you have so much to share. But I want to talk about, the audience knows that I will scream it from the rooftops, this connection between hormones and autoimmunity and all of the things you just mentioned, the lifestyle, the toxins, the gut health, there's so many things, and they're all intertwined and integrated, right? We can't separate stress, toxins, lifestyle from gut health and all of those things from hormones. And, it's this chicken and egg, it's all connected. But this impact, and I've personally experienced this, of hormones on pain, even if you have a diagnosis that explains your pain, right? Hormones really can impact the experience of pain and inflammation, and therefore and autoimmunity. And nutrition can impact those hormones and pain as well. And so I want to talk about that, because we've done a lot of episodes on different ways of supporting hormones, and listeners know I am a huge fan of bioidentical hormone replacement when appropriate. As somebody who doesn't have ovaries or uterus anymore, the reason why I am well and vibrant and all the things is because I have wonderful care in that department. But there's this range also of, I was going to start with perimenopause, but really I see so many even young women who don't have balanced hormones, right? They have rough
Yes.
cycles, they have PCOS, they have anxiety, depression, mood stuff, all these things. And again, we can't separate the layers out, but I want to dig in a little bit with that impact of nutrition. I know you have, I'm just throwing it all at you right now, and then you you drive. I know you have like 10 foods that everybody, can be incorporating, should be incorporating to help balance hormones and help with pain. But let's start me in the beginning of what is this connection between nutrition and hormone wellness?
I love that question, because it's not one that we always ask, because why do we have a hormone imbalance in the first place?
Right.
And again, we're asking that question, why? And a lot of times, it's not all of the case, but I mean, in your case, you don't have you don't have your ovary, so that's why. That's a really easy
but
answer.
Before
But
that,
do.
Well, and I lost, honestly, I was already well by the time I got rid of my ovaries. So before that, I was which I think is probably almost more common these days than somebody with beautifully balanced hormones. I mean, I was estrogen dominant, of course, had never heard those words and didn't know what that was. But my experience of my hormones was definitely, at least in my adult life, I was estrogen dominant. And so even back then, balancing hormones when I had my parts was a game changer, totally a game changer. Right. So sorry, I interrupted, but it's this big range of, yeah.
You're right. It's complicated. It can be complicated.
Yeah.
And we want to try to simplify it as much as possible. But, since we're talking about estrogen and progesterone, which are, the primary female hormones of the ovaries, you actually need certain nutrients in order to detoxify or to, help with the metabolism of estrogens and progesterone.
Uh-huh.
So you need, a glutathione, for example. I don't know how technical your audience is going to get, but, vitamin D, vitamin B, lignans, if you know what lignans are.
What are lignans for the audience?
So lignans are, they are chemicals that it's a whole webinar in itself.
I know.
They're chemicals that help. Yeah, they're chemicals that help produce hormones. And
where would we find them?
So a lot of things, they work really well with a lot of the antioxidants, actually.
Okay.
And so you're going to find them in things like, blueberries and flaxseed and broccoli and things like that. So, those are, where was I? I got off track. But anyway,
I'm sorry. We need these essential nutrients for metabolizing and detoxing to make them
to detox. And we need the antioxidants for any metabolic activity,
right?
Which the making and regulating of hormones is hugely, that's a lot of chemistry going on, and those are a lot of chemical reactions. And so we need those antioxidants to help as well. So
Well,
when
and just even those things, as you're listing off, like these are things that are essential. I'm thinking, wow, I've always been glutathione deficient. I have, MTHFR SNPs. So don't methylate my Bs well. My D, which I see in most of my people who haven't tested and aren't supplementing, their Ds are in the toilet. Lignin, it's all the, so no wonder so many of us have this struggle, like biologically have the struggle of regulating hormones, keeping them balanced. I want to ask you, and then I'm going to set you free again, because you metabolize and detox. And I think this is a really important piece that I certainly didn't know as a woman who had all those hormones naturally occurring, right? I never knew that you had to, detox estrogen, right? No, it's not a toxin, but we need to be able to excrete it. And therefore, if you're like me and you're a collector of every environmental toxin, mold, heavy metal that you've met, of course you want to also keep your estrogen recycling. And so talk to us a little bit about that. And because this is one little area where I'm like, oh, I know one correct thing that Bradley's going to talk about. Because you already mentioned, the veggies and the broccoli, and I'm thinking dim or, so how is it that somebody could have what's considered normal estrogen, but maybe they're recycling and that's driving inflammation or causing an imbalance?
Okay. So it's really, really complicated because so, for example, testosterone and estrogen can be converted back and forth.
Right.
And there's not just one estrogen, there's three to make
Right.
things a little bit more complicated, right?
Right.
You got your estrone, estradiol, and estrione, and
Yeah.
they all kind of play into a and your nutrition, if you're deficient in in a certain nutrient like B6, for example, you're not going to be able to convert back and forth.
Okay.
And so
Nice.
you're going to have a buildup of one and a deficiency of the other. Did that help?
Yes, it does. Well, and I think even yeah, it absolutely does. Sorry, I know I shifted you off track. We'll let you go back on track
That's all
with
right.
we need nutrients to build these hormones. We need certain nutrients to metabolize them and convert them back and forth. And then we need certain nutrients to be able to detox and excrete.
And metabolism, I know I kind of got stuck on that word, but maybe some of your audience doesn't really, we hear the word metabolism, but what is that?
Thank you.
What does that mean?
Good question.
And so metabolism really is just the word that we use to take and there's two types of bolisms, if you want. There's anabolism and catabolism. And it basically what it is when we take food, we have to break that food down. And then we have to use those little parts to build other things.
Right.
That's metabolism.
Right.
So it's like Legos.
Yes. Ideally.
Making a nice, steak or whatever we want,
Yeah.
a chicken sandwich, I don't know. But all that stuff has to be broken down in your gut, and then it all has to be, all those little proteins have to be reassembled so that our bodies can do what it does. And that's part of that is making hormones. So that's basically what metabolism is. So now we know.
Well, and I love that because now you just answered when I said that interconnection between gut health and all the things that impact gut health and metabolism, hormones, all the things.
If your gut isn't healthy, it can't do what it does. It can't break everything down. So, yeah.
I know. I think like maybe 7 years ago, I was like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about gut health. I feel like it's like the new fad. And now I'm like, oh, yep, it's the thing.
It really is. And that's when I was studying medicine, it all goes back to the gut. Everything. It's like, okay, depression. Okay, that's a gut issue.
Yes.
Hormone imbalances. Okay, that's a gut issue. And so, and I do want to make this, it really is important once you get that gut health taken care of.
Yeah.
And then we can work on the hormone balancing. So that's what I do. So I'm kind of like, okay, if someone doesn't have a really good gut health, I kind of have to start with that. And ideally, someone's already kind of gone through that. And there's other people that work on just digestion and gut health.
Right.
Let's get you there. And then when we're ready to
And
balance,
then go see you.
that's where I step in.
What is the connection between hormone imbalance and pain? Like if we know, okay, foundationally we're gut health. We got to address that, or we can't balance everything, long term. Anyway, you can feel better for a little while, but eventually you're going to have to address your gut. But why, can you talk a little bit about the connection? Because I can only speak to it from experience, and you'll speak about it intelligently, I'm guessing.
Well, we're gonna try, but it's all about there's a lot of hormone imbalances that cause inflammation, and inflammation is a guaranteed source of pain. Now, we make inflammation a bad guy, and I don't want to do that because it's really important. Without inflammation, we wouldn't survive. Okay. But we need to keep it in balance, and keeping the hormones balanced keeps the inflammation balanced. And there are studies. This is an interesting study. It's just kind of coming to mind. Is there was a study done in rats. It wasn't done in humans, but it was done in rats, where estrogen deficiencies exacerbated or made worse disc degeneration, which I thought was interesting as a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. And so, if our hormones keep our tissues healthy too.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't have
everything.
Yeah. And so, we have this imbalance, and we have this tissue breakdown, which leads to inflammation, which if there's inflammation somewhere, there's inflammation somewhere else.
Right. And I always tell people, like, again, there's not ever just one thing. So if you have autoimmunity or you have chronic pain, any kind of chronic illness is chronic inflammation driven. Hormones might not be the only thing, right? But every piece that we can get back in balance that's no longer contributing to that chronic inflammation. And I love that you did highlight, we do need we also need stress. Stress causes growth, right? But chronic stress causes inflammation. So I love that you just tied that in a nice little bow for everybody. Because I think of it as layers, and every piece that where we're reducing the inflammation, eventually we get to below that point of, oh my gosh, the pain's gone.
And there's a big question in the research. Does the inflammation cause the disease, or does the disease cause the inflation?
Yeah. I personally think it's the first one.
Both. I think it's both.
Well, sure.
I think it's a cycle.
Snowball. Yeah. But we know that if you address the inflammation, the disease expression may resolve.
Yes.
That's why we have these conversations, right? Not to be like, well, too bad. Right. No, we're changing the conversation because we can heal that. Are there certain pain conditions that you think of that are specifically like you immediately are like, ooh, hormones?
Believe it or not, unresolved back pain.
Ooh.
That's not affected by the chiropractic adjustments.
Interesting.
And maybe that's not necessarily as much hormone as it is B vitamins.
Okay. But
there's that link.
But if there's a B vitamin deficiency, there's going to be a hormone challenge at least. Right.
And another condition that I see a lot is frozen shoulder. I don't know if you've ever heard of frozen shoulder.
Yeah.
But there's primary frozen shoulder, which is actually a musculoskeletal condition. But there's secondary frozen shoulder, which is actually caused by thyroid problems.
Interesting.
Diabetes. And thyroid problems and diabetes are both independent risk factors for frozen shoulder.
Interesting.
So that's just another example there.
Yeah.
Of things that you wouldn't think that those were related at all.
Right.
They
I know.
are.
Now I want to ask, which isn't fair because I'm guessing there's not a clear answer yet. Why?
And you're
Right.
right.
Yeah. I mean,
We don't
sometimes
know why.
we
We
just
just
see
make
these
that
real
observation.
life expressions and correlations and
And
that's,
life can be messy.
yeah.
It's
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Interesting. I love I say this to people all the time. You mentioned chronic back pain, right? I already just said, I've fractured my back in the past. I have at least two, well, the two of my offspring that have had scans of their back, both as children had degeneration of the certain, they had compression at the same disc. Genetic, I don't know. Was that where their back pain? It's one of those things. Like if you take somebody, I tell clients this all the time. It's almost like, yeah, we want data, but also be careful because you can get films on 100 people with and without back pain, and you can find reasons for back pain on almost everybody's scan, right? Like so.
Mhm.
Even if there's a thing people can point to that they've been told, well, this is what's causing your back pain and, deal with it. You're saying, no, if there's chronic back pain that's not responding to chiropractic, that you would be looking at
There's
hormone
something
balance.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Really? Like,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
And
you for
I see so many things I see some MRIs on patients. I'm like, how are you even walking?
Exactly. And
But they
those
don't
people
even
may
know,
not even have back pain. Like
Right.
that's exactly what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
yeah. But once people see that or they're told, by an orthopedist or by somebody like, oh, well, look, here's the thing. That's why you're in pain. Well, not necessarily.
Maybe.
Yeah. Could be.
And that's what I always, that's always in the back of my mind. Maybe.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's this to me, the sign of somebody good. Okay.
Well,
If you think you know too much, if you're certain all the time, I am not going to trust you.
yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect, if you've ever heard
Yes.
of that. Yes. Yeah. It's a
Yes.
real thing, and I've learned it, but the opposite of that is also true. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know.
Well, because then the more we ask why, and then there's more to investigate
There's
and
more.
figure
There's
out.
always
That's the
more.
beautiful, that's life. It's good stuff. I don't know. So I want to dig into specifically a little bit diet because I know you gave us some of the nutrients that are essential that a lot of us I feel like in today's world are deficient in, whether it's because of genetic predisposition or toxins or gut health or all the things, right? Because that's another thing that I want to highlight. Because we're not going to go deep into gut health, but you mentioned it with the steak. Also, even if you're supplementing, if you're, listening and taking notes, like, I'm going to supplement with those things. If you're not absorbing, you're not absorbing, right? So if you're taking all these wonderful supplements and you haven't worked on your gut health, you just have expensive urine. That's all.
And
I mean, you may feel a little better, it may help. You may be absorbing more than because if you're not absorbing the nutrients from the food either. But so that being said, what are, you don't have to list out your top 10, but like even your top 3, like what are some things listeners should be definitely including in their diet, assuming they're not allergic or sensitive in the moment?
well, let's go with the top 3 then.
Yeah.
Number 3 would be tuna. It's a fatty fish. That's my number 3.
But what about mercury?
Yes, that is a legitimate concern. Let me clarify this. If you can get wild caught Alaska tuna,
Okay.
not the factory
Qualifier.
farm stuff. Yes.
Right. Okay.
And I should probably not assume this, but you should always source your foods if you can.
Right.
Uh,
No, thank you for
because
saying it and not assuming.
yeah, I mean, yes,
Especially,
that's
well, not even, but yes, like protein quality and sourcing it's makes it you can take, I'll use, and it's the same with tuna, but I know a little more about the stats with beef, right? Factory farm beef, industrial beef is not the same as grass-fed and finished beef. It's
correct.
not. Grass-fed and finished is high in omega-3s, the other's high in omega-6. They're just literally, when we're breaking apart the Legos, we've got different Legos, even though it may be two steaks, right? Or two
Right.
burgers.
And I
So
will even go one step further and say even the crops that we're
yes,
eating or that we're feeding will have,
yes,
because if they're not grown in good soil,
right,
where are the nutrients coming from? And so
right,
even the vegetables and the fruits that we eat, if they're factory farmed, or
right,
grown on a cash farm or whatever, not an organic farm that doesn't
right.
follow those good principles, you're not going to get those nutrients. Even I'm going to go even further as to the supplements that we take in. If they're not good, high quality supplements, I
Oh
like whole
yeah.
food supplements like Standard Process,
Hmm.
because they are grown on an organic farm, and it's food. That's where we should be getting our nutrition in the first place. Um, but I've been to their farm and I've looked at their stats, and their soil is actually getting better from year to year.
Yeah.
So I trust that stuff. If you can
Right.
source all of your food, that's the
Yeah.
way to go.
And soil quality, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. Maybe we'll have another conversation about that, because I do hear there are people who are eating which should be a nutrient dense diet, but it's not. And I really do believe in, yeah, some of it is, are you absorbing well and all of that, but a lot of it is just in general, unless where your food is grown, which is, I would say, even where I am, hard to find across the board. The soil needs to be amended. We need regenerative farming. So across the board, I feel like, correct me if you disagree, the nutrient density available in our food for the most part is not what it was, a
Years
long
ago.
time ago.
Yeah. Even 50 years ago, which I don't think
Yeah.
that's 50 years is an awful long time.
I'm 55, so nope.
Yeah. It's not. But yeah, you're right. And I think that's why we're seeing such a surge in the supplement industry, is because we're not getting it from our food and we
Right.
need to supplement.
Well, and I hear people saying all the time, no, don't supplement. You should be getting it from your food. And it's like, well, that's not always possible.
Right.
And I know, as somebody who tries to do both, I feel better when I take my supplements, and my body works better when I take mine are targeted for me, it's not an across the board thing, although
Right.
it is all
That's
those.
really key too, by the
Yeah.
way. I did want to interject with that. It's like
Yes.
it's got to be personalized. You can't be like, oh, my friend tried this, I'm gonna
Right.
too. It's
Yeah.
got to be personalized.
Yeah. I know, I see that all the time, especially I think people that are into functional medicine, biohacking, listening to podcasts. We tend to, I've had clients say, while I'm on, I feel like I'm taking too many supplements. And these are the targeted ones that have been prescribed intentionally, specifically, personally. And then come to find out, well, they're taking 20 other things that they read about, heard about, listened to, and it's like, okay, how about we take the things we know your body needs and we just slow like sometimes if you're taking too many things, it's because you've added in
Save
stuff.
your money.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
say. Like, you're taking all this stuff that
I'm
might not
not
even be
saying
doing
don't
good for you.
play,
Right.
because I'm experimental and I love playing. We had a rep come yesterday to the clinic from the company I actually have always been a big fan of, and happens to be local here, Quicksilver Scientific. And their whole thing is, the liposomal delivery of things we need, some of the things we've just mentioned even. And I just, she brought a bunch of stuff I hadn't tried before. I kind of have had my head down and haven't been as like, hey, what's new out there? What's going on? And I'm that person. I was there. I mean, everything she did, I took a swig of. I'll try that. I'll try that. That's fine. But also like you have to start with what does your body need and realize that may change over time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
And I'll do that too. When I recommend supplements, I do a lot of blood work, so I like to look at that and monitor, make sure that we're making those changes, right?
Yeah.
And then if someone, okay, we don't need this anymore, let's switch it out for something else, start fine tuning. That's where the fun comes in.
Question, this may be too personal. Why tuna and not salmon when you say fatty fish?
Salmon's number 4, actually.
Okay. Thank you. I was just so curious. So how does tuna beat out salmon?
Well, it just provides a couple of different nuanced ingredients.
Okay, the building blocks.
Okay. Yeah. So,
okay.
So, we need both. I love salmon. I like all of the if you know what smash fish are.
I do not.
I use
See,
this.
You told me I was going to learn.
Yes. Yeah. It's an acronym, SMASH. So it stands for salmon, salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring. And then I just throw on the tuna.
Gotcha. Okay.
Those are the best fatty fish that you can get. So all of those, any of those will be really, really beneficial for you. They just didn't
Interesting. Well, and I'm thinking of like the only person I know or people, and my brother too, my older brother, but my dad loved herring. I'm thinking of just the way we used to eat, right? So, I never took to it as a kid, but my dad used to eat pickled herring all the time. Because probably at some point they realized that was a healthy thing to be including, right? And I will say too, if you're like me, one of my toxicities has been mercury, and it's something that, compared to other people, I would still probably be considered mercury toxic, but it's better. It's always better. And we do sometimes I didn't eat tuna for years because of that. And even if that's an issue, like you can have some chlorella when you eat your tuna, or like there are ways if you're concerned about that. It doesn't always mean we have to avoid. And so I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm sure there are other listeners like me who were like, wait, what? Tuna? Yeah.
And if there is a concern, there are supplements out there that are adsorbent.
Right.
And take those too,
I love
especially
it.
if you have that problem.
Okay. So number 2,
I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one.
Oh,
but number 2 is actually beef.
Yes. Not factory farm beef though.
No, organic beef. Yes.
Grass-fed,
it's
cow's supposed to live.
Bad that we even have to say that, isn't it?
Right. Well, but I know, but I need to clarify.
Grass-fed,
yes,
organic.
Yes. I knew I was going to like you.
Yeah, but because the grain-fed, it's just, where are your nutrients coming from? Again, there's that grass-fed, the organic.
And I mean, growing up, my family was in the dairy business. And so I know a little bit about the biology of a cow. Mm-hmm. And I know that they are not supposed to eat corn. They don't eat corn in nature. They cannot digest corn. It will make them sick if you feed them corn, which is why they then give them antibiotics. Like there's just so many. Anyway. If you eat an animal that's been eating what it's supposed to eat, then you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And it's the same even with the fish. I couldn't believe it when I found out that farm fish is fed corn. Where in nature is a fish going to encounter corn? Where?
Right.
just
And
doesn't
and
ever make sense.
and it goes with, turkey, chicken,
Yeah.
everything. All of these,
Yeah.
any factory farmed animal,
Yeah.
or I'm going to say any factory farmed plant.
Right.
Because again, it goes back to the soil,
Right.
all of the good bacteria in your.
Yeah.
It's funny. I know this is really off topic, but the all of the microbiome of your
Yeah.
gut
Uh-huh.
and the microbiome of the soil should
Are
be
they
pretty
connected?
similar in order
Yeah.
to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
So we need a lot of diversity in our soil. We need a lot of diversity in our gut.
We do. It made what popped into my head was got to eat a pound of dirt before you die, which I grew up as an equestrian, so I still am. But I am like patting myself on the back. So we have outside my window over here, we've got 15 chickens who are new to us this year. We're probably about 2 weeks away from eggs.
Ooh.
We built their coop by hand on top of a flatbed trailer, and it moves around the pastures behind the horses because that's the only way I wanted to do it. And we put it off for a couple of years, and then we figured out how to do it. And I'm like, oh, I was really, my number one thing was egg quality, the quality of life for the chickens and egg quality. These are eggers. These are not meat chickens. I'm not that hardcore. But also we're trying to amend the soil on the property as well. And we need animals for that process. You don't have to have animals on your land. Like you could, there are other ways to amend your soil, to be clear. But animals are integral to that process, even the horses, even cows. And so I love that yes, there is this connection, and we know that when we stop touching soil, our microbiome depletes. Let your kids play in the dirt. Like,
Build
please,
their
maybe
immune
you go
system.
play in the dirt, too. So, okay, number one, drum
Number
roll.
one, number one is broccoli. Yes, I love broccoli. I think I've always thought that broccoli was just a superfood. And the more I learn about broccoli, the more I realize it really is a superfood.
It is.
So broccoli's number one.
I love it. Tell us, I'm nodding and cheering because I know, and it ties to things we've already touched on, but why is broccoli a superfood?
Well, because of all the nutrients. For example, it's got vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, but it also helps, it's an antioxidant for cortisol, which is your stress hormone.
Right.
It's got ALA, if you know what alpha lipoic acid is, that helps improve insulin sensitivity. You've got chromium in there, which is a mineral that you need for blood sugar metabolism. You've got vitamin B complexes, which help with estrogen and testosterone. It's got lignans like phytoestrogens that help. It can help reduce menopause symptoms, for example. It also, the lignans help lower the risk of heart disease, osteoporosis, and breast cancer. It's got something called sulforaphane, which is
coming. Yeah,
helps detox the hormones. It's got glutathione, which is an antioxidant and a hormone detox. I mean, it's packed.
And this is just regular broccoli. It doesn't like let's talk about some of the different forms we would consume.
Just the regular
broccoli.
American
Regular broccoli.
Broccoli, yeah.
Broccoli sprouts.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any form of broccoli.
Any form of broccoli.
Yeah.
Is it something, this, and I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. I'm genuinely curious. Are you like, we should all eat broccoli every day? Like it should just always be, included in your diet? Like what do you think? Do you eat broccoli every day? Well, you're not a woman either.
I don't. I'm a huge, everything in moderation.
Don't do anything every day. Yeah.
Right. And in fact, this is a good rule of thumb is just to make sure that you're eating a lot of different colors in your diet.
Yes.
You've got to have all of the, I hate that Skittles have taken the eat the rainbow.
Right. We have
phrase.
I know.
No, not Skittles, but if we apply that to our food, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So it sounds what my favorite thing about your list, this is definitely biased. I said already, my favorite thing is the beef. I love that your list, because we need the rainbow, not the Skittles or the M&Ms. We need the actual genuine rainbow. I think we need the biggest variety, especially, focusing with the autoimmune audience. So many of us, and I do it with my clients, we do an elimination and combine with blood work and all the things while we're healing. And I always say to people, the goal is, ideal is you're eating the most varied diet that supports you. So people tend to, as they're, identifying food triggers, it's really common for people to stay stuck in what I would consider, what should be considered an elimination phase, because they're, afraid. They feel good and they don't want to rock the boat. And it's like, no, we need to be including, I'm nightshade sensitive. You better believe that every year that we grow tomatoes, I'm seeing, like, is this year, the year I'm going to bring tomatoes back in, because they're nutrient dense and they're delicious. I grew up in New Jersey, but, I joke, like, processed sugar never needs to come back in. That's not a food group.
Right.
But we don't want to be excluding nutrient dense foods just because we read they could be inflammatory, but I love often when we have this eat the rainbow, when we talk about nutrient density, most people aren't including your really healthy and important protein sources on the list. Right. So, like, major applause to you, because we are whole humans and we were created to be consuming a variety of foods.
Right. Yeah.
So
humans are omnivores.
Yes. Tell people what I just realized.
I'm sorry, vegetarians. I'm sorry, vegans. I'm sorry, those that follow the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Maybe they are beneficial. Maybe those diets are beneficial for the short term.
They can be. I think any major real whole food switch can cause some relief of inflammation and a shift. And that's why people are like, oh, I feel so good. I went vegan and I found, sorry, vegans, I went vegan and I felt great. And then 5 years later, they're hiring me because they've got 5 autoimmune diagnoses because they're still vegan. And it's like, and same with I have used carnivore with particular clients as a reset, but I love it. We are omnivores. We are.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be. Yeah.
That's how, that's how our ancestors lived. They ate what they could find.
Right. Right. And they weren't in one place. They weren't farming. They weren't, so,
right.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, that's another really episode.
Yes.
I love it.
And I'd be interested in your, just to throw this out there, your process for your farming. That sounded really interesting. I think.
Yeah, we'll chat about it. When we're done, I'll shift the laptop and I'll show you who's outside. We'll see. And of course, eat the rainbow. And no, there is no difference in nutrient density. But if all goes well, we're going to have blue eggs and green eggs and brown eggs and orange eggs and chocolate color eggs. And just because it's fun, why not?
That's nature.
So, lots of fun. So I'm learning, as I grow. I grew up in suburbia, but now I'm like, we're living on this farm. We might as well really embrace it. And I am so interested and focused on nutrient density and quality. That was the whole thing until we figured out how to build the coop ourselves. I only wanted to do it if they'd be pastured. And oh my gosh, if you go online and try to find a mobile coop, they're a fortune. So now I know I can build stuff. I can amend my soil. I can eat a healthy breakfast, and I can have some fun. So it's good stuff. So,
I am going to break your heart on the eggs, though. I
Yeah.
recently read a study that it could be linked to diabetes if you're eating too many eggs. With the caveat, though, I don't know what type of eggs they used in that study.
And
I'm
what
gonna
else
bet
were they
that they
eating?
weren't organic.
Well, I bet you they were not pastured for sure, right? So if you're eating, I mean, that was these chickens, I've had them since they were 3 days old. They have been on a soy-free, corn-free feed, and then nature, right? Bugs and the things they're finding, and our fruits and vegetable scraps and meat scraps. And so it's going to be another one of those, like, what were those chickens eating? And what else are the
Yeah.
people eating too?
Yeah.
So talk to me again when we've got like 10 studies. And
Right.
we'll see. In the meantime, I'm going to eat my healthy eggs.
Enjoy those healthy eggs. Those
I
are
will.
that's
I
actually
will.
number 9 on my list too.
Is
So
it?
eggs, yeah.
Awesome.
So eggs is also what I consider a superfood. So
Awesome.
yeah.
I agree. I absolutely, it's another one of those, it was demonized. Oh, when people say to me, oh, what would you eat? Oh, egg white, whatever. I'm like, no, stop it. Stop it. So
Eat the whole egg organic if you can.
yes, love it. Bradley, this is the point in the podcast where I ask you a trick question.
Ooh.
You're not going to have a problem with it. But listeners are leaning in because they know this is coming. What you already gave us so many, and this could be something totally different, or you can repeat. What's one step listeners can take today to start to improve their health? I know.
That's a great question. And I should have known this was coming because I looked up some of your past podcasts. And one person said increase their water intake, which I think is very, very important. So do that. But I'm going to say if you are drinking any sort of sugary drink, whether it's a juice, whether it's a soda, even the diet sodas, stop it. Especially the diet sodas. Yeah, I know it's pretty interesting that people think that, oh, it's a diet soda.
Yeah.
I'm okay to drink it. They don't realize that it's fake chemical sugar, and that people that do drink diet sodas actually tend to gain weight, and not in a healthy way.
Right. Yeah.
So
not muscle.
I would say cut down on the sugary drinks.
I love it. Because that's going to lead to more and more and more goodness. So yay. Good job.
Decrease that inflammation, because that sugar, those simple sugars, create so much inflammation.
As do the chemicals in the diet drinks. Yep. Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I would recommend.
Amazing. I so appreciate you taking the time to join me and give us so much value.
Julie, it's been my pleasure. This has been really fun.
Yay. It's supposed to be. Thank you so much. For everyone listening, remember you can get those transcripts and show notes by visiting inspiredliving.show. Hope you had a great time and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.